right, and we are back with another very important and what will turn out to be a very insightful conversation. It's on preventing childhood obesity in the Caribbean. And we have joining us via Zoom Daniel Walwyn, who's the advocacy officer and the lead coordinator at Healthy Caribbean Youth, a Healthy Caribbean Coalition, as well as Kerry Barker, who is a Healthy Caribbean Youth member and Master of Public Health student.
Good
morning to both of you.
Morning.
Good morning.
All right, so I guess I want to start with asking about this organization. What is it that you guys do? What's your mission over there?
Thank you so much again for having us. So the Healthy Caribbean Coalition is a network of civil society organizations really focused on the prevention and control of non-communicable diseases. And we do this sort of work largely through empowering our civil society organization members. So for example, the Belize Cancer Society is a member of the Healthy Caribbean Coalition.
Nice.
Okay.
And we do quite a bit of work. I know you all are familiar with them.
Yeah.
We do quite a bit of work also in partnership with some regional organizations like PAHO and CARFA and UNICEF. And then Healthy Caribbean Youth, which is the youth arm of the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, has a very similar mandate. And a lot of our work does focus on issues that are pertaining to children and youth within the healthy food policy space, as well as largely anything to do with NCD prevention and control.
Nice.
So we do a lot of work, but that's a general summary.
Let's talk about your work as it pertains to childhood obesity in the Caribbean and preventing childhood obesity. What are we seeing in terms of how prevalent this issue is within the Caribbean? What is the data showing?
Well, the data is actually showing us that 1 in 3 Caribbean children is overweight or obese. And this was actually, I think we had this figure from pre-COVID, and we know that during COVID, children actually very suffered. Physical activity opportunities were limited. The food environment was severely restricted. So it's actually possible that this is actually a lot greater. And why we're concerned about this is that this puts children at greater risk of developing NCDs. As Daniel mentioned, that's the focus of the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, Healthy Caribbean Youth. And not only, people tend to think that, okay, NCDs, heart attacks, stroke, diabetes, these are things of old age, but we're actually seeing people being diagnosed with and dying from them a lot earlier and earlier and earlier. So we really want to ensure that where possible, we can prevent children, we'll prevent all people, but starting in childhood, from developing these diseases.
What have we noted that is leading to this such prevalence in child obesity within the Caribbean? You're saying 1 out of every 3 children. Is it the easy access to sugary products? Could it be that families and communities, parents aren't fully informed on what a healthy diet may or may not look like for a child?
Yeah, well, so you kind of hit it on the head. We've noticed that the NCD epidemic in the Caribbean is largely driven by diet, an unhealthy diet. And that's diets high in foods that are high in salt, sugars, fats, and contain other preservatives, whatnot. And we find that these are taking a greater hold in our markets and our supermarket shelves and our diets compared to natural homegrown products. So definitely, yes, diet is a huge driver of this.
So is it, because when you mentioned the types of food that we're eating, I immediately thought about Caribbean food, right, Paul?
Yeah.
For instance, here in Belize, we love our rice and beans and chicken and salad, and oftentimes that would be a heavier type of meal. So it might not be completely balanced as it relates to having all the food groups. So is that a concern then? Are we using a lot of starch in our meals and not really including more vegetables because of maybe the culture that we have here in the Caribbean?
Daniel?
I think, yes, I think that we have to be mindful of our portion sizes. We do have really good foods, and Carrie alluded to this, that we have seen this nutrition transition. So what you're mentioning are foods that might have been locally grown, and those are, we know, are quite nutritious. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is a surge in what we call ultra processed products. So these foods that are high in salt and sugar and fat. And as Carrie said, those are the products that are becoming a lot more prevalent, a lot more easily accessible, and also very heavily marketed. And particularly when we're talking about schools and school environments, that's where we're really, really seeing these products being more accessible than we'd like to children and young people. And unfortunately, with this surge in these products, they're kind of overtaking the healthier foods that we know we should be consuming more of. The fact that unhealthy foods are more prevalent, it's kind of booting out the healthy foods, which, you know, we really want the healthy foods to be most accessible, and we want that to be the norm.
Where does the education begin? Does it begin at home, where there, for example, I know not here in Belize, but in other parts of the Caribbean, fried chicken, like KFC and these different outlets, these different chains. Fortunately, we don't have that here
Unfortunately,
in Belize.
fortunately.
But in homes, that's perhaps one of the go-tos. Let's get a quick meal. Let's get something that can easily be accessed. In homes, we don't necessarily have that traditional approach anymore, where you grow your produce in your backyard, you grow food in your backyard, and you provide that for your family. And then at school, it's so easy to access candy, sugary drinks. So where does the education begin, and how can we get families and schools to understand that we need to do better?
Yeah, well, it's important to note the food environment is very multifaceted and multi-layered. So you mentioned, yes, children start in the family and then they go to school, but then there's also the wider environment that they live in, the wider community, and actually education can start at all these various levels. And then we specifically focus on the school setting, and why we think the school setting is important is that if you look at how much time out of a child's day they spend at school, is fairly significant. You mentioned about a third of their day is spent at school. And there've been various covenants and mandates internationally, but also signed on by Caribbean leaders that designate schools as health promoting spaces. And that is to say that we acknowledge that children spend so much time at their school. And I think when you send your child to that school, you actually expect and hope that they're safe, that they're being taken care of. So we want to ensure that schools are health promoting environments, and schools, children are actually getting access to healthy and nutritious foods at school, which is actually part of one of their human rights. Students have rights to access to education, but they also have rights to access healthy and nutritious foods. And linking to your education point, but where schools present a very good educational avenue, because you have children there so much of their day, you have parents that interact with the children that are at school. So schools actually do present an excellent avenue for that educational component that you talked about.
I want to talk about the buy-in that's involved when we're trying to prevent childhood obesity. As you mentioned, there has to be some form of participation from the schools as well as the parents. How do you go about campaigning for that through these two avenues?
Parents and schools. So one of the things that the Healthy Caribbean Coalition does, as I mentioned before, is we empower our civil society organizations on the ground who have ears to the ground, who are very engaged with the public. And so they are one of the main mechanisms for getting the word out about the need to implement these sort of policies that we're mentioning and creating these healthier environments. So they are a mechanism for getting the word out, but also a mechanism for engaging not only parents, but even the policymakers who are the ones that can implement the policies that we need to, again, protect and create these healthier environments. So our civil society organizations play a huge role there. And of course, within the civil society organizations or even outside of those, young people, especially when we're talking about the school environments, have a huge role to play in terms of speaking the same language as other young people. That's one of the main reasons why we launched Healthy Caribbean Youth, youth to youth. Again, trying to get that buy-in from other young people on the importance of this issue. So it's, as Carrie mentioned, it is multifaceted. We need multiple strategies, but one of the biggest value adds, especially from Healthy Caribbean Coalition's point, is the value of civil society organizations and advocating, but also gaining traction around these policies.
Yeah, I think it's key that you get the buy-in through civil societies from policymakers. Indeed, one of the uphill battles I would imagine is the large, the great access to resources that some of these businesses promoting these unhealthy foods have in terms of their big marketing budget. Everywhere you go, you'll see these unhealthy foods and snacks advertised. They're always in your face, always on the commercials. And in a sense, you can't blame a business per se, although they have a social responsibility for wanting to turn over a profit, because, well, that's what they're there to do. But at the end of the day, when policymakers come in, policymakers can really make a difference in terms of implementing legislation, implementing these types of policies that mandates some of these businesses and marketing agents to not only promote these unhealthy products, but also to understand that they have a social responsibility as well. But I would imagine that's one of the huge issues we have in the Caribbean, the marketing of certain unhealthy products. Daniel?
You're right. And it's something that we're continuing to advocate for. As Carrie mentioned, one of the main environments that we're focusing on, because really what we would like to see, and I noted in Belize's nutrition policy, this is something that aligns with that as well, is an overarching marketing restriction, especially to children. But one of the things that we're really advocating for is a school environment for all the reasons we've mentioned before, because it should be a protected space, because it should be, again, a space where children learn and are active and are their best selves, and also acknowledging their right to health. And so we have seen some progress. So for example, Barbados recently implemented their school nutrition policy and included a marketing regulation within that policy. And I think for resource constrained settings like ours in the region, that's what we should be aiming for. Is although we would love to see marketing on a larger scale curbed, let's focus on that school environment where I think all parties can agree that it's really meant to be a space for children to thrive. So yes, we have seen some pushback, but I think we can, again, all parties can kind of agree that that should be a protected space. And so we're really advocating for at least a start to be in regulating the marketing, the sale and marketing of these products in the school environment.
We at Healthy Caribbean Youth, we recently launched a paper on conflicts of interest, because what you've mentioned actually reflects a conflict of interest, because that is, we know that schools are supposed to be healthy, promoting environments, but we know that then industries are coming into these schools and sharing and marketing and pushing products that are not healthy. So these two interests conflict, and therefore it's really important that schools recognize this, that governments recognize this, and implement stronger policies to ensure that these unhealthy products don't get access to the school environment.
What are examples that you guys can give of alternative approaches that schools are taking to provide healthier options for their students?
Yeah, so we have a few, but one, and probably Carrie can speak even more to this, in Barbados, because as you all mentioned from the very outset, we have our local food and we have a way of making our local food. In Barbados, for example, they would have had, the Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados and their Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition, for example, would have had vendor trainings with the vendors at schools and taught them how to create these what we know to be our foods and make them healthier. So there's strategies like that. I don't know, Carrie, if you have any other ideas.
Yeah, well, some other options were for the same organization. They started out with restrictions. So just solely, okay, restricting the sale of certain beverages in schools that are high in sugar, promoting the consumption of more water, ensuring, advocating for more water coolers. Because of course, if you want to tell children, look, you should not be drinking these beverages, you should be drinking water. You need to make sure they have access to water.
Right.
Educating parents, having fairs. One actually encourage more that the health promoting private sector kind of fills that void. So instead of promoting unhealthy products in schools, you're promoting more healthier products in schools.
Do you guys have data on the non-communicable diseases that children are getting because of the issue with obesity?
Specific stats I don't have at the moment, but we know that there's been, just as we see with adults, we have seen this increase in diabetes and hypertension, and pediatricians, as Carrie would have mentioned at the outset, would have actually written a letter, a call to action during the COVID-19 pandemic because they were seeing some very harmful behaviors in terms of overconsumption of the foods that we have been talking about, limited physical activity. And so as Carrie said, we are anticipating that has gotten worse, but the very same conditions that we know impact adults are unfortunately impacting children and young people at a much younger age.
The Caribbean, the Healthy Caribbean Youth Initiative, is this something that is established or seeking to be established here in Belize? Because I haven't heard of a youth arm such as this in Belize, and one would imagine it would be helpful to have something like this here in this country.
Yes, so we are, well, the Healthy Caribbean Coalition is regional, so we have CSOs across the region, and so we invite young people from Belize, please. We actually don't have any members from Belize yet, and so this would be a great, thank you for the recruiting opportunity. So we would be very, very happy to have any young people who are really passionate about shaping a healthier Caribbean and want to meet other young people from various backgrounds who are also interested in that. So you can look up healthycaribbean.org under Healthy Caribbean Youth, and the form to fill out will be right there. So thank you for the recruitment, and I hope that we have some young people from Belize join.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, ladies, I'll ask you if you have any last words as we are about to wrap up this segment.
Well, just a reminder, as we said before, that access to health, access to safe and nutritious foods, access to education, these are all actually human rights. They were protected under the Convention of the Rights of the Child. So it's really on us as duty bearers and on us to actually ensure that children actually receive these rights that they're entitled to.
And from my end, just along with, you know, all the policies that we continue to advocate for, is also a push for youth to be more meaningfully engaged in these decision-making processes. That has been a big thing for us, and that HCC amplifies in whatever space we can. The decisions that we're making about, for example, what we're talking about today, nutrition and the health status of children, any decision related to that is going to impact children and young people. And so really they should be, young people and children of all backgrounds should be involved in that decision-making process.
Alrighty. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having future conversations like this with you again. And hopefully we have some Belize CSRs as well representing us as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you too.
Alrighty, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's all about the importance of Insurance Awareness Month. Don't go away.